Greetings in Jesus' wonderful name and welcome to Riverside Chats. I began a series on Bathsheba. We are looking at the relationship between Bathsheba, wife of David, and Nathan the prophet. Nathan the prophet was the prophet during David's entire tenure of kingship. Nathan instructs Bathsheba to approach David with his own confirmation. Evidence of this is found in 1 Kings 1:11 to 14. There was a great cooperation, great trust, great respect between the queen mother, Bathsheba, and the prophet Nathan. It shows the extent of God's redemption. God is a redeeming God. Bathsheba is bold. Nathan is wise. Bathsheba boldly reminds David of the oath he made concerning Solomon, that Solomon would be king. David was approaching the time of his death and fast approaching. Evidence of this is found in 1 Kings 1:17. David was getting cold in his body. The temperature of his body was down. His advisors thought, well, David needed another wife, so they got him a beautiful young lady called Abishai. She was beautiful. And they thought, as one of the wives of David, she would keep him warm if she lay next to him. But that even didn't keep David warm. The time of his death was imminent. There's a time to be born and a time to die. There's a season and a purpose for everything under the sun. Nathan affirms the truth of Bathsheba's words, of the oath David made. But Nathan suggested that Bathsheba does all the groundwork and then he comes in. Nathan appeals to David's responsibility to follow God's choice of a king. Adonijah was David's son, definitely older than Solomon, but he was not to be king in God's will. We need to follow God's will. Kingship in Israel was a great thing. I guess Adonijah could have made it. He could have been a bad king or a relatively okay king. But when God chooses, he chooses the best. God already equipped Solomon. God chose him to build the temple his father collected materials for. You see, Bathsheba and Nathan help usher Solomon onto the throne, fulfilling God's purpose. God chooses whom he will. Often we think the older people are, the more mature they are. Here's a young lad chosen to be king. As we look at some lessons from the relationship of Bathsheba and the prophet Nathan, and when I talk about relationship, I'm not talking about an intimate sexual relationship, no. Sometimes we understand those words in terms of scandal. No, this was a pure, clean relationship between the prophet of God and the queen mother. I told you that Nathan took a liking for young Solomon. Chances are that his son played with little Solomon. And Nathan gave him a nickname. He called him Jedediah. And Jedediah means loved by the Lord. Evidence of that is found in 2 Samuel 12:25. Someone else said it is translated as God's darling. You know, we all have a darling. We have a wife we call darling. Some people don't call their wives darling. They have a tumultuous relationship with their spouse. Some husbands can be mean. Some wives can be mean. We are looking at some lessons from their relationship. Nathan models how prophets should speak truth, not just to those in power and influential people like David, but they need to speak truth to the wounded. Bathsheba was wounded. A marriage suddenly ended. She was married to Uriah the Hittite. David, through his lust, intervenes and gets her and sins with her. She could be stoned to death by Israelite law, which was God's law. David himself could be stoned to death. But God forgives him. We should not only speak to those in power and influence, we should speak to the hurting and the wounded. Jesus is the wounded healer himself. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. Surely he bore our sorrows, and by his stripes we are healed. As we look at the relationship between Nathan, the prophet, and Bathsheba, the queen mother, Nathan and Bathsheba represent a blend of prophetic insight and courageous action. We shouldn't be afraid of anybody. Eastern monarchs had a powerful platform as king. If anyone came into the presence without being summoned into their presence, some Eastern monarchs could have them killed. But you see, in Israel, God didn't want a melech. The word in Hebrew for melech is king. God wanted a Nagid. He wanted a vice regent. So he would always be king in Israel. The king in Israel was not final authority. God was the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We look at God's sovereignty and redemption in the relationship between Nathan and Bathsheba. Bathsheba started with scandal. But then God brings forth Solomon, the child of Bathsheba and David. Nathan named Solomon Jedediah, loved by God. 2 Samuel 12:25, affirming God's grace at work. I want to encourage you to speak truth with compassion. Like Nathan, we are called to comfort, or we are called to confront sin, not destroy, but to restore. We must understand that we are all sinners. We can look at someone who's fallen today and say, there go I, but for the grace of God. Sometimes I talk to my wife and I tell her how many times God just protected me. If he didn't protect me, I would be destroyed. sometimes the vain imaginations, our great temptation to sin, our great temptation to give it all up. We need to trust in God's redeeming power. Bathsheba's story reminds us that God can redeem even the darkest chapters of our lives. I've had some dark days. I've had some difficult moments. But through it all, Jesus made a way for me. God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide, hold me closer to his side. For love and strength for each new day, God will make a way. I want to encourage you, partner with the right people. God often works through faithful partnerships, even unexpected ones, to accomplish his will. Nathan and Bathsheba may not seem to be a natural pair, but they collaborated with each other. And their collaboration was essential to God's redemptive story. In their courage and honesty and shared sense of justice, we see a powerful example of how truth and grace can change the course of history. This brings me to the end of the relationship that existed between the prophet of God and the Queen Mother. A clean, pure relationship that would advance King Solomon, the kingdom of Israel, and the kingdom of God. God bless you and love you.